Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi. Today I'm reviewing an HS scale Alco RS-11 locomotive from Rapido Trains. My example is decorated as Southern Pacific 2909 in the scarlet and gray scheme. Rapido offers this model in two versions. The MSRP for the DC version is $225. The MSRP for the version with LokSound DCC and sound is $335. I paid $279.98 for my sound equip model from Factory Direct Trains. We'll start the model at 100 possible points. The engine comes in a heavy cardboard box with a foam liner. Rapido's owner's manual is styled to look like an Alco factory publication. It has DCC and other information about operating the locomotive. There's also a sheet of paper with exploded view drawings. Inside, a two-piece plastic cradle protects the model. More foam protects the handrails. The box includes two packages of extra parts. This is a good box that should protect the model for storage and transport. Southern Pacific took delivery of its first RS-11s from Alco in 1956. My unit, 2909, was built as SP 5729 and put in service in December 1956. This locomotive was part of an order for 7 units that SP placed after purchasing the 3 RS-11 demonstrators from Alco. It became 2909 when SP renumbered its diesel fleet in 1965. The unit was sold for scrap in February 1980. I was not able to find a photo of this locomotive as 2909, but I did find photos of several sister units. Rapido has a photo of 5729 on its website. It's worth noting that SP's RS-11s from later orders had some different car body details. Overall, the model appears to match prototype photos pretty well. Rapido put footboards on the pilots, which is correct for the locomotives as delivered. In later years, these would have been removed. The one flaw that I found is that the 3-pane cab window on the fireman's side is too far to the rear of the locomotive. I have a photo of sister unit 2906 in one of my SP reference books that shows that the window is located more toward the front of the unit. On the model, the rear of the window lines up with the rear of the door at the base of the cab. Even the photo of 5729 on Rapido's own website shows that the rear of the window should be ahead of this line. This would be a difficult thing to fix, so I'm taking 10 points. The paint on the model is opaque and evenly applied, and the coat is thin enough not to soften details in most places. The separation lines between the red and the gray are very sharp. The markings are crisp, and even the tiny stencils on the sides of the engine are legible. Some of the grills on the sides are photo etched, though it's hard to see the detail behind them. Rapido includes a pair of screens for the large louvered grills at the rear of the unit. Some SP units had these. The model has Rapido's new style wire handrails with separate stanchions. However, some of the stanchions on my model are crooked. In front, the model has nicely done freestanding grab irons. The dual sand fillers are correct for SP's early RS-11s. The engine has the full SP light package front and rear. The square emergency light housing looks good. It's nice that Rapido included the alternate rounded emergency light, though I haven't seen any photo evidence that any of SP's early RS-11s had those. I really like the recessed brake wheel and the MU connectors on the front handrails. A neat feature is the movable drop step. Be very careful when bending it as the part appears fragile. The pilots have uncoupling levers and hoses. The cab has wind deflectors on the engineer's side, but these are just chunks of clear plastic. They look a little cheesy compared to some of the more detailed parts I've seen on some other models. Though it's hard to see, the cab has a complete interior with a control stand and seats. On top, the locomotive has a very delicate plastic antenna. Mine is slightly bent. I've tried to coax it back into shape, but when I do, it slowly springs back into the bent position. Again, this is a very fragile part, so be careful when handling the engine. A metal casting might have been a better choice here. I think for the price, the engine shouldn't have crooked handrails, cheap-looking wind deflectors, and a bent antenna, so I'm taking 5 points for all of those issues. The horn looks good and it's in the correct location. Though it's a little hard to see, there are separate fan blades under the photo-etched fan grille. The roof-mounted water tank is another neat SP feature. Rapido includes an exhaust stack extension in the parts bag. Some SP units had these applied. Underneath the sill, the unit has plenty of detail. I really like the brake chains on the front truck. This is the first time I've seen this type of chain modeled as one continuous piece, just like the prototype. All 4 axles are powered and all 8 wheels pick up current. The model has brown painted knuckle couplers on both ends. I'm looking for the horizontal center of each coupler to match. The front coupler is close enough to the correct height to call it good. The rear coupler is low, so I'm taking 5 points. All the wheels are in gauge according to the NMRA standards gauge. There is no body wobble. The model weighs 14.3 ounces. I measured a peak drawbar pull of 2.4 ounces on my force gauge, about average for an HO scale diesel. I'm running the locomotive on DCC. I haven't changed any of the factory default decoder settings. F0 turns on the headlights. These are directional, so the forward headlight comes on when the locomotive is set to move forward, and the rear headlight comes on in reverse. F7 dims the headlights. It also dims the number boards, which I think is a little weird. F11 cycles the classification lights through various colors and off. F12 puts the locomotive in switching mode, which lights up the headlights on both ends and dims them. F13 turns on the Gyralites, which are directional. F17 turns on the emergency lights on both ends of the locomotive at once. These should oscillate. Tweaking the decoder CV settings could fix this. F18 turns off the ground lights, which are normally on. F19 turns off the number boards, which are also on by default. Personally, I don't like having light controls assigned to higher numbered function keys, as it makes them cumbersome to use on many DCC throttles. Thankfully, LokSound decoders can be reprogrammed to map the keys any way you like. F8 turns on the sound. F2 sounds the horn. The length of the toot depends on how long you hold the key down. F1 rings the bell. F4 activates the dynamic brake sounds. F9 activates the full throttle feature, which allows the engine sounds to be revved independently from the model's actual speed. This is good for simulating starting a heavy train, or for an engine that's coasting. F10 is supposed to be an independent brake, but it doesn't work on my model. This is likely a programming error and could be fixed by tweaking the decoder settings. I tried resetting the decoder and that didn't fix the issue. I got out my Lok programmer and took a look at the function key assignments. Changing the value for F10 in the sounds column to engine brake fixed the issue. While I was at it, I also changed the behavior of the emergency light. Looking at the function mapping page, I can see that F17 controls output aux10. Going to the function outputs page, I can see that aux10 is set to dimmable headlight. Changing this to Mars light should do the trick. I have a fleet of LokSound equipped engines and I do this kind of thing all the time, so I don't think it's too big a deal, but I realize that getting into the techie side of model railroading isn't everyone's cup of tea. Whether it's easy for you or not, I don't think this kind of tweaking should be necessary, so I'm taking 5 points. Let's see what we've got. The fireman's side cab window was incorrect, so I took 10 points in the prototype accuracy category. Some of the details are bent, crooked, or of poor quality, so I took 5 points in the paint and detail category. The rear coupler was low and there were decoder programming issues, so I took a total of 10 points in the standards and operation category. That leaves us with a total of 75 out of 100 possible points, which would be a C on our report card. This isn't a bad model, but it could have been better for the price, so I'm giving it a yellow signal. Be sure you're willing to either live with or fix the cab window before you buy this unit. Overall, this is a pretty nice model and it does a good job capturing the look of SP's early RS-11s. Purists might want to think twice, however, because of the cab window issue.